Hey up, Cowboys Nation. It's 9 o'clock here in the UK. So that means it's one thing. It's time for the UK Cowboys pre-game show, season 3, episode 12. As you can see, just tonight is myself and my good friend from across the border up north is Lorne. How are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, not too bad. The reason why it's a rather intimate show tonight is we're on baby watch. You know, if I had the old Brian Fontana bit from Anchorman, I'd get that up at the moment. Mike's Mike's wife's in the early stages of labour, so you know we're holding out for good news on that score. Um, and a few people seem to be AWOL this week, so yeah, it's just you and me. So
Yeah, I was going to say it's been a bit of a scramble. We were laughing off air, weren't we? How it kind of all came about. It was there was a full cast, and then things have changed. So we may get Paul at some point. That's touch and go. So if he's on, he's on. And from the messages we just had from Mike, we may get someone as well popping in, but we don't want to shed any light just in case that doesn't happen. But we're on to the Patriots. The season's fastly going upon us, and we're 4-1, and it's looking good. And I think we might as well just jump straight into some news and updates. There's quite a bit to get through actually today. I know there always seems to be more on a Thursday night show, doesn't it? Getting up to the game. So the first one is everyone will be happy to know that Trayvon Diggs, although he's carrying a slight ankle knock, some limited practice, but Mike McCarthy has said that he's not going to be a concern for Sunday, and I'm guessing you Lorne as well will be happy with that and wiping off his brows.
Yeah, I think he's actually, he's been niggled by injuries the last couple of weeks. After that interception where he leapt over Golladay and Golladay went out injured, Diggs actually went to the sideline and actually had his foot retaped as well. So there was obviously a concern there. I think that's maybe when he tweaked it a little bit. And there's, there was concern about it, but he was hanging on, and we've managed to, the prognosis is looking good for Sunday at least. Mm-hmm. Now, can he last a whole game? I don't know, but we'll see.
And just to cut the news off, we did say that we could potentially have a special guest, and we're going to bring him in now. Mike's worked his magic, and let's just bring him in. And
as you and me doing it at the same time.
Good evening to Cowboys radio legend, Mr. Brad Sham. How are you doing?
Jamie, I don't know about that legend stuff. Lorne, you can stop that nonsense right now. Right now. Remember, I am a Man U supporter.
Oh, that's me as well. Especially now we're in the league. I'm not going to lie. I did hide a little bit, Brad, after you give us a good spanking to the start of the season.
Yeah, it was nothing personal. It was nothing personal.
So how's things across the way? How you doing?
I have to tell you that I'm really happy to be on with you guys because I was just as I was getting home, I would say roughly an hour ago, I was on a podcast that old acquaintance of mine does for the Patriots. And as I was dialing in, they had a woman who I didn't know, she didn't say where, nor do I know, but she's from the UK. And I was listening to this British accent talk about how the Cowboys were going to shoot themselves in the foot. And I thought, I got to get on with my guys here in a minute. This is no good. We cannot have this.
Yeah, I think as you can see, we're a little light-handed tonight, and Mike literally dropped a message saying Brad's available. Do you want to come on? We're like, if you're free.
I just heard from him. We obviously send our best thoughts and prayers and wishes for Mike and his wife, and hope everything is just exactly as they would have it be, and all good thoughts to them.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I think just as you popped in, we were just going through a bit of the news. Obviously, Diggs. Mike McCarthy said he's not concerned for Sunday, but from the looks of it, he's obviously limited to practice, which is obviously a good sign for the Cowboys. Last thing is we want Diggs out of the game Sunday.
Right. And here's let me help you guys for the rest of the year. So these reports that come out for a Sunday game on Wednesday and Thursday after practice, and then you'll get one on Friday that will have a status. And so you're probably going to see, I haven't seen if they've sent it out yet today, but next to Diggs, it's probably going to say DNP, did not practice, did not participate, which was the case yesterday. He's done something to an ankle, but he was on the cords today, working diligently with their excellent physio, Britt Brown, who's the best in the league at rehabbing injuries. And he then did a media session, and he was in very good spirits. So the way the Cowboys have their schedule, they have certain practice habits for Wednesday and Thursday. Friday is a day of rehabilitation, physical and mental rehabilitation. Their Saturday practice is really the one that determines for the coaches whether a guy can play. And there is no report that comes out after a Saturday practice. It comes out after Friday. My guess is when that report comes out tomorrow, it's going to say either doubtful or questionable for Diggs, and he'll play. There's nothing about what I've seen yesterday and today in his demeanor that suggests anything other than he's going to play. He may not be 100%, but it's week 6 of an NFL season. Very few of them are. I think Dante KZ may be a different story, the free safety. He did something to a hip in practice yesterday, and he came limping off, and he didn't really do very much today. He'd be, for me, a little bit more doubtful, but they might get Donovan Wilson back, who practiced today. Off the top of my head, I think he hasn't practiced. I mean, he hasn't played since he strained a groin muscle in Tampa in the first game. So they're going to be, over the next few weeks, they're going to be getting some players back, but I think that Diggs will be fine for Sunday.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Sorry, long one, buddy.
I was going to say on that score, they've activated the 21-day practice window for who's it? Sean McKeon.
Joseph and McEwen,
and Joseph, So
here's what I think will happen. I think that neither of them will play on Sunday. I think Joseph might be a little closer, but really they have a bye the next week, and so they don't have to practice really the next week. So I would expect that they're carrying 52 men. My guess is that they will sign Jeremy Sprinkle, who they have elevated from the practice squad the last 2 weeks. But you can only elevate twice. Now, if there's a COVID absence, you can come up from the practice squad an unlimited number of times. Fortunately, they don't have anybody on the COVID list right now. So Sprinkle used his second standard elevation last week, but they have an open spot. If they want to use a third tight end in this game, they can just sign Sprinkle to a regular contract. And then if McEwen is ready to come back by the time they go to Minnesota following the bye, then they would probably waive Sprinkle. In all likelihood, no one would claim him, and they would re-sign him to the practice squad. So that 3-week window, Lauren, that you're talking about with McEwen and Joseph should have them right on target to play in Minnesota, to return and be available, let's say it that way, for Minnesota.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. I think we're all chomping at the bit, aren't we, really, to see, especially Joseph picked so high and he's so rated coming out of college. And I said, what's already a talented secondary, he's playing well this year. So an addition like that it's just going to make it even more formidable, isn't it?
Yeah, it would make it stronger. There's no doubt. I think that Anthony Brown has gotten a bad rap from people because he's been around for a while, and he is not a big flashy name. He's a solid player. He had a couple of balls that got away from him in Tampa. One of those was not his fault. It looked like it was, but it was he was covering up for somebody else who fell down, and so it looked bad for him. But he is a solid corner. He's probably better as a third or fourth corner than a second corner. And so the question will be for who starts the game going forward, which one of them trains best, which one of them is showing the best mentally. You would have them both available. He would certainly, Jamie Joseph would make he would certainly make your bench deeper. And I think that they expect him to be challenging to be starting before the season's over.
I think I was looking before we came on air as well, and were you mentioning about Anthony Brown as well, and he gets a lot of maybe not so much good publicity from the fan base, and I think he's in tackles wise. I think he's in the top 25 in the league at the minute, so he's putting himself about a bit, and he's doing a job in it. Like I say, it's just I say when I say a shame that Diggs is outperforming. It's just I think if Diggs wouldn't have been performing to the level he's at, that he would get more of Anthony Brown.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. Now Diggs is playing at a different level, and hopefully he will continue to do that. But this is 6 years for Brown. He hasn't stuck around just because he's a great guy, which he is. I mean, he's a pretty good player, and he's a useful player. And I don't care what the sport is. I don't care if it's what your viewers and listeners know of as football, whether it's American football, whether it's basketball. I don't care. There are players in every sport who are needed to win a championship, who are solid role players, who are not stars, who can fill a number of different roles, and who mentally will take whatever necessarily comes their way. Anthony Brown's one of those, in my opinion.
No, definitely.
I think Anthony Brown's also had a bad rap in that, his first 4 or 5 years in the league was with Jason Garrett, and the sort of emphasis I think that Garrett had was that don't gamble and go for the ball. Let the guy make the catch, but make sure you get the tackle in there and then. This year or last year was a complete reset because Mike Nolan's defense, I don't think anybody was on the same page half the time. And, that's why we were leeching big plays left, right, and center. This year, I mean, I think you're seeing Anthony Brown stepping up. He's still giving up the odd pass, but I mean, the fact that he's had his hands on two interceptions already this year, he should have had another couple in the Carolina game. You can see he's making progress this year, and again, it's probably from the fact that he is actually getting more playing time this year than when he was sort of a secondary player to Byron Jones and Chidobe Awuzie.
Yeah, and he's not. I don't know how much of a different player he is than Awuzie. Byron's really good, but let's not lay it all on Jason Garrett. Now he wasn't. He was hiring the defensive coordinator, but it was other people who were coordinating the defense and who were describing the style of play. And Brown he's always been a good tackler. He's a smart player, plays with a chip on his shoulder, which I like. And so I mean, I think there's a lot of teams playing with worse.
I think the last thing that we had on Mike touched on this for me. That was confirmed. Neville Gallimore likely to be about a month away. A little bit disappointing, just more so for the player. It'd be nice to see him back on the field. They say can never have too many pass rushers and enough beef up the middle. I don't know what you guys think.
Well, Jamie, I like Neville Gallimore. I think he was their best interior defensive lineman when he got hurt. Now, Odigizua has come on gangbusters for having the opportunity to play in that spot. They're pretty much the same positional player, and whether they can play Gallimore and Odigizua together is going to be up to Dan Quinn to figure out. I think that if I could strengthen any area of the team, it would be at defensive tackle. I'd like them to be really stout in there. But Gallimore's absence has been part of that. And they still are hopeful for Tristan Hill, who he and Gallimore might both be able to come back at about the same time. Gallimore could be in time for Minnesota, maybe another week or so after that. But he'll make them better. Now, there's no doubt about that because the guys they signed, Brent Urban and Carlos Watkins in the offseason, those are really solid backup journeyman players who fill a role. I don't know if they were meant to play 50 or 60 plays. And when Gallimore comes back, then they'll have a deeper rotation. And then the young fellow Bohanna is growing. You know, he's getting his feet wet. And by the end of the year, he should be making maybe a more significant contribution. I'd still would like to have some real mouth breathers up there. You know, some really nasty guys in the middle of that defensive line. But Gallimore will make them better. And if they can find a way to get Gallimore and Odigizua on the field together, that's got a chance to be good.
Yeah. If you get them both on the field, I think Paul would be having a field day when he's got love for both of those guys.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I think that's pretty much do. So we'll quickly move on to the so it's time to discuss the offense. But I think, before we do that, we can see some comments flying in. So make sure everybody, if you're tuning in, comments, let us know what you think about the game against the Patriots on Sunday, where you think the game's could be won or could be lost. But so get this stuff up. So the offense on Sunday, I don't really think it needs a lot of talking up. Does this offense? Does it gap inside the top 10 this year? Zeke, top 3 in rushing. Maybe surprising, Dalton Schultz touching the top 10 for receiving. Have we?
The interesting thing about this part of the matchup to me, Jamie, is that Bill Belichick has always been about as good as there is at taking away whatever you most want to do, whatever you do best, and daring you to beat him with everything else. The way this team is playing right now, I'm not sure what it is he wants to take away and take his chances with, because he can probably bottle the running game up. He can put extra people inside. He can do different things with formations and alignments and make the blocking difficult to run, but then you're going to have to defend the passing game. And Kellen Moore is having a pretty good year at dialing up plays for whatever the opposing defensive coordinator puts in front of him. So it won't be easy just because those guys are so good at designing defenses and making the whole be greater than the sum of the parts. And so it might not be real pretty. It might not be a 35-point game. But if they don't make mistakes and turn the ball over and they take care of it, then I think they can be very efficient offensively. It's a pretty good offensive team. Line is playing really well. And all of the receivers, I mean, they're even without Michael Gallup, who is also working real hard. Gallup might be back as soon as Minnesota. Even without Gallup, they've got 2 tight ends catching the ball. And you mentioned Schultz. He's got more catches than anybody else. But Cedric Wilson stepped up as a third receiver. Both running backs catch the ball. They got a lot of ways to beat you, and you can't stop all of them, I don't think.
Do you know, I'm glad you – sorry, I was just going to quickly say, I'm glad you mentioned a little bit there on Bill Belichick and Kellen Moore. One of the comments that came out of one of the interviews today was, where was it? Kellen Moore was asked about Bill Belichick taking away what you would say you make you play left-handed. So taking away what kind of your bread and butter, and Kellen Moore responded as, "It's fine, I'm left-handed anyway." Yeah,
that's what he said. He said that on Monday, and then he said, "Always hating on the lefties." Kellen's this will be for me the most intriguing part of the game. Actually, it's on both sides because, their offensive coordinator has been good, and he's been there for a while, and he's been coordinating all those offenses. And Dan Quinn's having a great year. And so the chess match between the coordinators on the two sides of the ball to put the players in position and then having the players execute, that to me would be worth watching. That might be worth watching twice.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I mean, all the best people in the world are left-handed, so.
Yeah.
But then I may be a little bit biased. But yeah. I mean, I think Belichick will be praying to the rain gods that the rain comes down and forces us to run the ball more than anything on Sunday, because
that's not the forecast I'm looking at here, Lauren.
Well, that'd be great if it's a nice dry day. Great, that helps our. That does help the passing game, and it is going to be a case of pick your own poison on how we attack them. As you say, I think this chess match is going to be great. I mean, Dan Quinn has experience of obviously 2 Super Bowls against the Patriots, one as a head coach, one where he was 28-3 up at halftime, and obviously one of the biggest collapses in Super Bowl history.
Or comebacks, depending on your point of view.
Yeah, and then you've got you've also got where he was one play. He did his job, and Seattle's offense was one play away from winning the game. And would you have passed? Would you have run on that play?
I'd have run. Everybody would have run, but that was Pete Carroll's call to make. By the way, according to the Weather Channel app that I have on my phone, the forecast for Foxborough, Massachusetts, on Sunday is 66 degrees with a 17. That's 66 degrees Fahrenheit with a 17% chance of rain. I think it's a lovely day to play football.
Yeah, nice fall weather.
Yeah.
One of the interesting stats about this game, we're looking up the Cowboys, just for you all. The Cowboys and the Patriots have squared up against each other in the regular season 13 times. The Cowboys won the first 7.
Yep.
And then the Patriots have won the last 6. The last Cowboys victory was in December of '96 at Texas Stadium, a 12-6.
So Jamie, they've never won in this stadium, in Gillette Stadium. And I actually did the game, although I don't remember it, the last time they won in Foxborough, which was in 1987.
Wow.
87. So anybody who's 30 or younger, not alive.
Nope.
It's crazy to think, isn't it? And I know Mike was this. Well, I know we all know Mike's not a massive Mac Jones fan. I'm not gonna lie; he was one of my favorite quarterbacks in this draft.
What does Mike not like about Mac Jones?
Let's have a look at the comment he sent me here. Brad was, where is it? Let's have a look. He likes a check down. He's a 5-yard guy.
I'd hate to here's Mike about to become a father. Is this his first?
No, it's second, yeah.
Right. Well, one more and they're playing zone defense. But he'll see this at some point, won't he? He'll go back and watch.
Oh yeah. I'm sure he's probably lingering in the background.
Mike, if you think Mac Jones is just a check down guy, you are not watching the games. You're reading someone else's report. I just finished watching their game against Houston last week, and I saw a lot of what he did at Alabama last year. This is not a check down guy. He's a very smart young quarterback who, while maybe not a runner, is very active and mobile within the pocket. He's got a really accurate touch on the ball, and you're going to have to force him into a mistake. He's not going to make one on his own. So do not sleep on Mac Jones. Mm-hmm. And the last time Dallas won at New England was 1987, and that was an overtime game. I have a
Yeah,
vivid memory of that.
I seem to remember that being on Channel 4, I think.
Yeah, I got a very vague memory of that game, but I couldn't tell you anybody who did anything in it.
And
I was
think,
there. I was there.
I think looking back, I think you mentioned overtime. I think looking back through as well, that was the only game that went to the only game in this series that's ever gone to overtime, hasn't it?
Yeah, I believe that's right. I believe that's right. Yeah.
So what do we think? Do we see a well balanced offense like we've seen the last few weeks, or with Zeke now getting into that stride of getting 100-yard games on the ground? Do we see maybe a bit more of a
Don't get hung up on the numbers. Don't get hung up on the numbers. The reason they threw the ball so much and ran so little in Tampa was because that's what was available. That's what they could do. Tampa last year was the best running off defense in the league. And the Cowboys tried a little bit early, and they realized that was going to be a long day. And so they threw the ball, and that pretty much worked out. And look, they had chances to win that game. They had a running play, if you'll recall, in the third quarter that wound up being down in the red zone, wound up being a field goal because Blake Jarwin missed a block on a little pitch out to the left. If he'd made that block, Zeke would have missed the only guy there, and he would have walked in. Now, who knows what that would have eventuated. But if I had to bet, and there's a big reason, boys, that I don't bet, but if I had to bet, I would bet that when Belichick looks at this offense, he does not want them to eat up the entire day running the ball. He wants to get his offense on the field. He will mix. He'll take his chance mixing up some blitzes. Dak's very good against the blitz, by the way. But he'll take his chance mixing up blitzes, mixing up coverages. My guess is that what he doesn't want is for them to rush for 200 yards again and to dominate the clock and dominate the number of plays in the game. Because he's got to have his offense on the field with a chance to get at that defense. And if he does that, then it's up to the Cowboys receivers and the quarterback to make them pay for it. And I think they're capable of doing that. But that's what the game's all about.
And we've just quickly, we've got our foursome now. Paul's joined us.
Yeah, hello guys. Hey Brad, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well, but this is a very menacing look. What are you going for here with the hoodie? What's all that about?
I don't
This
even
is
know
his
if
anti-Biden.
I would not say that. I'm getting really sick of the response from the White House in general with regards to travel. So I don't know if you might know, Brad, but the UK travel is getting lifted from the United States. I can actually come over to the USA now, but they're not given a specific date yet. That's what I'm getting.
So you understand that the reason that the White House is doing that is because all of the people on the other side of the political fence resisting vaccines are making the variant more dangerous. And the vaccine resistors are keeping the whole pandemic alive here.
Hey ho, but
hey, listen, if wearing a hoodie makes you feel better about the whole thing.
Oh no, this is just nice. It's just nice and comfortable more than anything.
Hey, rock on.
Yeah, sorry, I look like I just came out of a Star Wars convention.
Yeah, we're trying to get to that time of year.
It's like I don't think my microphone house looks like I'm like some of Star Wars with my lightsaber here.
Yes, exactly. And not a pleasant Jedi either, may I say.
Before we jump onto the defense, and this is no disrespect to the Patriots offense, because as we'll all know, if you take a team and don't give them enough respect, they'll come back and bite you in the proverbial backside. But is this more of a case of if the Cowboys lose, it's because we've done ourselves in because of the abundance of talent we've got on this side of the ball, or is it the Patriots?
The first, excuse me, I'm going to look at this. I saw an email come in that's got the practice report that will tell me about who practiced for New England. So they they're really efficient and they're really smart. They don't have the raw talent, I don't think, that the Cowboys have at every position, but it's not their offense against the Cowboys offense. It's their offense against the Cowboys defense. So for Dallas, let's see, they listed Diggs as a DNP, as I suggested would probably be the case. Let's see about let's see what happens tomorrow. Let's see what they call him tomorrow. I think he'll play. All right, for New England, their most productive running back has been Damian Harris, and he practiced today. He did not practice yesterday. He left the game with a bruised rib in Houston, but he did practice today. Their left tackle, Justin Herron, did not practice today, and they've got two guys. They've got two starting offensive linemen on the COVID list, and they didn't play last week, but they won. They won playing 4 out of 5 backup offensive linemen. So I think, Jamie, the answer to your question is that the first thing is you cannot turn the ball over, and what New England will try to do is force you into mistakes. So and one thing obviously Dallas has been very good at so far this year is protecting the football. So you've got to protect the football. You cannot be loose or cavalier with it. And if you don't make mistakes and you're patient, there will be something available on almost every play. It may not be exactly what you most want. It may not be what you intended when you went to the line of scrimmage. It may not be at all what fans want to see. But something will be available if you just are patient and everybody does their job. I think that there's a great opportunity to be good enough offensively. I don't see them. So I'm looking at my chart here. They've scored 44, 36, and 41 the last 3 weeks. They won with 20 and scored 29 in losing. I don't see 40 points. I don't see 35 points. New England's number 5 in scoring defense, but I think that their job is to figure out a way to hold New England to something like 20 or 21 points. If they can do that, then I think they'll have enough offense to win the game.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I think the one danger man for New England is Judon. He's got 6.5 sacks this year, which is leading the team. Other than that, the next guy is Uche, who's got 3 sacks, and then you got a number of guys with 1 sack. But
Lauren,
yeah,
here you are again. You're reading the statistics sheet. Don't read the statistics sheet. Watch the game. Because they have a number of dangerous. Judon's a load. He is an absolute mess to deal with. Number 8, their linebacker Jawan Bentley, very, very active player. Dante Hightower, number 54, probably besides Gilmore, the cornerback they traded the last couple of years. Not last year, but before last year. Hightower was probably their best defensive player besides Stephen Gilmore, but Hightower opted out last year. Yeah. And so he's back, and he's a really good player. And the other outside linebacker, number 53, Kyle Van Noy, he's a really good player. And they've got one of the better safeties in the business in Devin McCourty, number 32. So Lauren, I'm going to have to check back.
No. I know.
I'm going to have to check back and see if you become a slave to the stat sheet, because it's what I hate about fantasy football. The stat sheet will not tell you about real football. It will not tell you about the game. And so they've got a number of players who are really dangerous. They've got Jamie Collins, number 58, in his third different stint with New England. And just signed last week on Wednesday. and they only spotted him a few plays. He had a critical sack late in the game, lined up between the center and the guard, and blitzed, and no one knew who to block, and he sacked the Houston quarterback, and it was really a setback for them. So don't read the stat sheet. Watch the game.
I don't normally. I just didn't. I haven't had time today to prepare properly. But normally I do watch the coaches tape on Game Pass and go through about 2 or 3 games. But obviously, I was looking at the headlines there, and that's probably the.
Well,
big
you
player
are
is
spot
Judon.
on. You're spot on Judon. He is a mess to deal with. He plays a little bit like Paul looks right now. And so, really, that's a very difficult thing for the opponent.
Yep.
As we
No reaction
so
from Paul. No reaction whatsoever.
Sorry. All I know is all I'm going to say, I just feels that we've got enough to kind of isolate this defense for sure with the weapons that we've got and with our offensive line. Just that from a general perspective.
I think you're right. What gives me pause is the number of times I've seen them compete against Belichick in the past with an absolute total lack of success. And so he's really good. He's really, really good at figuring out ways to make you be different than you want to be. Now that's why, as I said, I think it might have been just before you came on, Paul, that I'm really excited to see, because Kellen Moore is coordinating plays and calling plays at another level.
Oh, absolutely.
So this is a great chess match between him and Belichick to see who can prevail.
Yeah, if there's one thing you can always say, about Bill Belichick, he always seems to kind of pull something like a rabbit out of the hat somewhere from a coaching perspective, where it's from defense, maybe change the front up or whatever. Like, it just somehow still manages to get the win, and it's not the most pretty looking game you're ever going to watch, but it still gets the win, and that's what's so special. That's why people rave about Bill Belichick, because he is a winner. He's a winning coach with that winning mentality, and that's one thing we can never ever underestimate about the Patriots. Never.
No, that's why it would be a big feather in their cap if they can win this game.
I think what's refreshing about this offense as well, especially the offense this year, with respect to kind of to past players on the team, that if you could shut down wide receiver one and keep Zeke, do you know what I mean, not letting him pound the ball, you could pretty much guarantee that you were going to beat the Cowboys. But the team this year is just, everybody's on it. If you shut down CeeDee Lamb, you've got Cooper, you've got Tony Pollard, and what's even more refreshing is the 2 tight ends as well on this roster of especially I'll end up, and I've given them some bad raps over the preseason. Didn't think that they were potentially good enough, and we should be looking so. But they've stepped up, and it seems one week it's one of them, the next week it's the other one, and it's like I said, I think the Patriots are definitely in for a rough ride if they can't step up and get some of these guys this weekend.
Yeah, Jimmy, I just want to bring up Joe's comment. It's like we seem to be giving the Patriots too much credit. It's not necessarily we're giving them too much credit. You just don't want to underestimate them more than anything. It's not so much we're giving them credit. It's just like they can still, they're like, it's like any other team in the NFL. They always have that threat. It doesn't matter if you're bottom last or top of the league. They can still represent a massive threat. Like any given Sunday,
There's an old saying that is, I think, attributed correctly to Bear Bryant when he was somebody said it about him when he was coaching at Alabama, and they used to say, and I think this is true of Belichick, he could take his and beat yours, or he could take yours and beat his. He's the reason that I think you have to give them all due respect, even if it looks like your players seem to be better than their players. It's a team game.
Yes.
And he's got a way of making his team be more than the sum of the individual parts, and that's why you have to give them maximum respect, in my opinion.
It's funny that you mentioned that there, Brad, because we've seen it in the past when it comes to like when is recruitment for Bill Belichick. He doesn't really go flash out for first round draft picks. Maybe it made so much Matt Jones that fell to his lap. But in previous, he would trade back. He would pick up guys who were former first round picks for maybe like a 5th round or a 6th round, like Danny Shelton, for example. That's probably one of the best examples out there. Like he has this. I'm not going to give him that too much high of a credit. But it's a bit of a gift how he can get former players who were so high ranked up from previous years in the draft and get them for pretty much pennies or cents.
I think that's really an insightful comment. In fact, I was on a show in Foxborough earlier this afternoon, and I said one of the things that the Patriots have always done is not spend. But first of all, that draft position has been usually low because they've been winning.
Exactly.
So down in the low 20s or 30. Now then, they've gone and spent smart. They haven't spent a lot of big dollars on big name free agents. But what they do is they buy role players who they have a vision of fitting into their system. And they do it for a moderate enough price that you can get 4 of them for the price of one big guy.
Yep.
Well, the Cowboys have done a little bit of that this year, I think. The Cowboys have 8 players, 8 on their defense who are all playing roles, all contributing. Some of them are starting, some of them have been coming off injury. Some of them have been released by other teams. Some of them are just playing better than they ever have because I think the Cowboys – I think Dan Quinn had a vision for their role, and they didn't cost an arm and a leg, and they've given these guys an opportunity to play a specific role on the team, and they're doing it. And that, to me, gives me great encouragement because I think it's what New England has done, besides having Brady. I think New England's done that better than anybody, more than anything else they've done better than anybody for the last 20 years.
Yes.
Do you know,
I agree.
Perfectly put. And I think we spoke about this before, and I've read a book on Brady as well a couple of years ago. And if you take away Gronk, and they didn't. I don't think they won the year that Randy Moss was there. But if you take away, obviously an elite receiver in Randy Moss and in Gronk, I bet if you went out and asked people who Brady's number 1 receiver was each year that he won the Super Bowl, I don't think anybody could name 1, let alone 2. Like you say, perfect example of role players who fit the scheme, who can do the job, and like you said, and that's why I think a lot of us have been excited this year about Dan Quinn's defense, and it's going to be a shame when it comes to re-signing some of the guys because some of them guys are balling out and probably not going to be back on this roster next year.
We're not.
Jamie, stop! It's week 6.
Sorry, getting carried away.
You've already morphed right into the saddest days of the off season.
I know, Jamie.
Jamie,
we still got a Super Bowl to kind of look forward to, you know.
Oh,
oh no!
It's week 6. Just enjoy the challenge of going to New England and winning there for the first time for Dallas since 1987. That's all. That's all that's in front of you. And just enjoy the journey. I don't care what team you pull for, what sport it is. This is my opinion. We get so caught up in the eventual destination that we hope to reach that we just lose sight of the journey, and the journey's where the thrill is. Because only one team holds up the big cup at the end of the year. Only one.
Yep.
Especially in the NFL as well.
Football, you got 6 cups, so there's all kinds of cups for people to hold up. But there's really only one champion at the end of the year. But that doesn't mean only one team had a good year.
True.
So let's not worry about signing guys in the off season. They're getting paid for that. Let's not worry about who they're going to play in the NFC Championship game.
It's all about now. It's all about
Sunday. New England. They haven't won in New England since 1987. Let's concentrate on that.
Jesus,
this is why we love you. This is why we love you, Brad. You and your words of wisdom to keep us in the wraps.
Comes with age. All of you just take that to the trash now.
Yeah, if there's one thing, like, and I'm guilty, we all are guilty of it. It's like we just really get ahead of ourselves when good things coming our way. We just get too excited and just think too far ahead. So
I mean, and then you forget to enjoy today.
Yeah, true.
I think, a lot of people have been saying, what does Mike McCarthy bring to the Cowboys? I think he is that steadying ship that, he will have them ready to play week in, week out, not be looking forward. I know Amari has been quoted this week, or he did an interview this week where he talked about how he's aiming for the team are aiming for the championship. But I think, even then he said you've got to take it week by week. When you start looking forward to the championships, that's when you're going to slip up. This would have been the week when Bill Parcells would have the mousetrap over the doors. And I think, to be honest, I've seen enough glimpses in New England that I think they will, towards the end of the season, once everybody's gelled, once Matt Jones has had another couple of weeks under his belt, seen a little bit more of what people are throwing at him, I think that's when you're going to see them come on strong towards the end of the season as well.
By the way, who's in their division?
Miami,
who are in London this week.
Yeah, right. And the Jets.
Jets and Buffalo.
Yeah. So they're probably not as good as Buffalo.
Oh no.
They probably got a long uphill trek to keep up with Buffalo. But they're better than the other two teams. And then the question becomes, can they figure out a way to get into the playoffs? Can they be a wild card? Mm-hmm. And if you just look around the AFC, there's a great deal of uncertainty there. I wouldn't bet against them right now.
It's funny that you mentioned that there, Brad, because Seattle did that once before, and I think that was the year we beat them during the season, and they came back and they actually made it to the Super Bowl that year.
The year that the New York Giants ruined New England's perfect season.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. How did they do it? New York we were the number one seed in 2007. We were either 13-3 or 12-4. We were the number one seed, and the New York Giants, the number 6 seed. And they came into Texas Stadium and beat us. And then they went to Green Bay, and then they won that game. Then they beat somebody else, and then they went and beat New England, unbeaten New England in the Super Bowl. So, hey,
wasn't that the year as well that the Cowboys were the first number one ranked team to lose in the first round of the playoffs?
I don't recall that. It could be true.
Yeah, it's
I would just
one
say,
of the things that
not New England out of the playoffs yet.
We have doing coverage over here. We have Osi Umeniora. And obviously he does a podcast with Jason Bell, who was a former Cowboy, went to Houston and then went to New York as well. They do a podcast each week, and the number of times he brings up that, they knocked Dallas off that year, that Dallas were number one ranked NFC team that year. We'd beaten them twice in the regular season, and it's how difficult it is to beat teams 3 times in the season is because there is that footage there that people can scheme against you because there'll be tendencies that you show in each game. And, I get fed up listening to him going on about those. So, take each game as it comes.
Exactly.
And just.
No, definitely. So, I think that puts us into a nice little segue. But before we move on, don't forget to get your comments in, guys. It's nice to see everybody tuning in, but let us know what you think. Got a comment, got any questions that you want to put forth, and then we'll move on to
Ooh, the defense, my favorite part.
So pick your poison, gentlemen. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start the front? The front line, going to go linebackers. I'm going to go defensive backs. And Paul's look there has me thinking defensive line.
Oh yeah,
I'll let you take it away, Paul, because I know the one name you're going to mention. We touched on Neville Gallimore, sadly being out.
Well,
month.
well, Neville Gallimore's he's my boy. I cannot wait for him to come back. But if there's one thing I'm going to say, I find Osa Degrizua has got to absolutely have a ball in this game. I really do. Like he is just getting better and better and better each game. His get-offs and watching the footage of him. Oh man. like it's from when you really do compare it to last year's woes. Like our biggest problem was our interior nose tackles and stuff like that. Our defensive tackles was stopping the run. It's now become under Dan Quinn. I don't know if he's just managed to sprinkle some magic dust over on top of our defensive line, but by God, they are doing a fantastic job right now.
Well, the personnel is better, Paul. There's no question. Odigizua has exceeded expectations. Remember, they're doing it without Gallimore and without DeMarcus Lawrence.
Exactly, and that is the thing that I'm just like completely blown out the water with. I'm just like, is this like these are the majority? Like you just mentioned D-Law and also Degrizua, but the majority of those other guys, like with the exception of Urban and one or two guys, but the same guys from last year are still there, but they have a big play with a big message.
Actually, Randy Gregory's having a good year.
Yes.
And then the other guy that we have to mention, who is also a rookie, is Chauncey Golston.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I would like so. We did. I was on a different podcast show for day 2 of the draft, and we were talking about Chauncey Golston, and I was asked the questions like, "What do you see as this?" Well, he's got the athletic ability for being. He's a natural defensive end. Why he was like people did question why did we pick him up so high? Well, the Cowboys had their reasons why, but from looking at the film, his get off speed, his use of hands, his reach to actually create separation from the offensive tackles, it's second to none. The only thing that probably was his downside is probably of his strength more than anything, but his speed makes up for it.
And he's a very, very smart kid.
Oh, yeah.
And they actually drafted him thinking he would be DeMarcus Lawrence's backup this year. Lawrence is probably their best run player. In addition to being an outstanding pass rusher, he's probably their best at defending the run. They saw Golston as his backup. Then they lost Lawrence after one game. Well, here's Golston, who has also provided some great play inside. He's only played a couple of games.
Not to mention, Brad, he's pretty much missed the whole training camp as well.
Not pretty much. He missed the whole thing. He missed the whole thing.
Crazy.
And, Paul, we had the chance to talk to him last week for the first time. We'd never seen his face, and because he'd been getting treatment. And he's a great kid. He's got a great smile, very bright, and you like talking to him. And so what he's already shown is that he can play. You saw the play that he made with Jabril Cox on 4th down at the goal line against the Giants. So he's got really good speed. He's a little stronger than he looks, and he can drop down inside and play in there in the nickel. And so when you look at the personnel from last year, Gregory is back. They didn't have Lawrence for except the one game. Gallimore they haven't had the whole year. Now, Urban they got from the Bears, and Bohanna they drafted. And Watkins they signed from Houston, and then he missed 2 games with a knee. And so this is what I was talking about finding guys who are role players who someone else didn't want. Yeah. You had a vision for them. You plug them in, and they're doing okay.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned Urban there. He was one of the players I loved the pickup. I know there's not a lot of tape on him, and throughout his career, he's not played a massive amount of snaps. But when you see the tape that's available, he's destructive up the middle, and he causes a lot of issues for the offensive line. I said smart pickups definitely, and it's working out nicely.
Not just that, Jamie. He can play it as a hybrid. He can be defensive end and become a defensive tackle as well. It's very much similar to, in a way, that Tyron Crawford was. I would say. I don't know if you kind of agree with it in that perspective, Brad.
You know, Tyrone was one of my favorite players, and he I remember talking to him his rookie year, and he was from Canada, and he played 2 years at Boise after being in junior college, and they didn't know whether to use him at end or tackle, Paul, as you're saying. And I said, what do you do best? He said, I get into the backfield. And so that's why they could use him at end to basically be a run player if that's what they needed, if they were thin at defensive end, and then drop him down inside in nickel situations to rush the passer, because that's what he did best. So there's a little bit of Golston's a little bit different body type, but there's a little bit of that.
No, I was meaning Urban. Sorry, I was meaning Urban's very, like, you can play him more in the middle and can play him outside, not Golston. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that this is one of the things they've tried to do is get multiple players who do that very same kind of thing. And look at obviously they found that with Parsons. They now know that they can do more things with Parsons than they thought they could.
Oh, definitely. Like, if there's definitely one word, well, especially here in the UK, especially when it comes to soccer, if you can have a player that can play different positions, like from defense to midfield to up, like as a forward, we call them utility players, and this is exactly what we've got right now. It's like what you're kind of saying, like you having Parsons, who plays majority of linebacker. You can put him at defensive end, like they're becoming utility players. Like you can actually put them at certain positions when needed and drop them in, and they're still going to do a good job regardless. And it's exactly what you're saying there, the role players. Absolutely.
You know, I think, Paul, the secret to all this may be that they've got a Brit coaching the defensive lineman.
Adam Dodd, aye.
Yep.
Yeah, I have had the pleasure of meeting Adam a long time ago. Like when he was still coaching in London.
Yeah, he's a great young man. I've met him a few times, and actually did meet him in Europe, and when he came over here first. And so I think the key to what you're talking about, and I saw someone put up the comment that Osa played inside some against the Giants, and between Dirty and Quinn and Leon Lett, they have the ability to look at these tapes, look at the guys on the practice field and say, okay, in these situations, let's move this guy to here. Let's have these 4 guys on the field in these down and distance situations. And so they're very flexible. And that's one of the things I think that has been a hallmark of the Belichick defense. And I think that's very encouraging.
Could not agree more.
What do you think is the difference between the defense last year and the defense this year? Because they're playing at a completely different level out there. I know a lot of people were saying that the last scheme was a little bit too complicated, and is it just?
I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was too complicated. It was poorly communicated. I do think that I thought the whole staff did a poor job of making a very difficult adjustment in the COVID year when they had no off-season work, they had no mini camps, they had no OTAs, they had no off-season meetings, they had no off-season weight rooms, so they didn't have a chance to establish communication with each other that way. All the training camp was limited, and it was there at the start. And some teams handled it better than others, and I thought the Cowboys handled it poorly. And I think that whatever it was that Mike Nolan was trying to do, the way it was being communicated to the players and the way it was being communicated from player to player was done poorly. And they made some really bad veteran personnel decisions before the season.
Oh, don't get me started, Brad. Don't get me started.
So that's what's different, though. They've taken that. Now the personnel people are the same people. They have a whole different coaching staff on that side of the ball. but they have flipped that mess from last year completely on its head. And they've taken all these guys, they've brought them in together. Look at the safeties. I know we're talking about up front, and I've got to go here pretty soon because I've got some work to do. But look at the safeties. I'm not saying they have Cliff Harris and Ronnie Lott and Troy Polamalu. That's not who they've got. What they've got is more depth at the safety position than I can remember. So DeMonte KZ hurt his hip yesterday. He's been a very big plus. Now, how about J-Ron Curse? J-Ron Curse, he might be the find of the whole lot.
Yep, definitely.
Absolutely.
He plays, he covers a tight end in the slot. He plays strong safety. He plays up on the line of scrimmage. And he played on a top 5 defense in Minnesota. Now you throw in Hooker, who was the 15th pick in the draft before he had a couple of debilitating injuries. So they took a chance on him. He's healthier than he's been in years. And you watch and see if he doesn't play a much bigger role, especially if KZ is hurt this week. Now we're going to add Donovan Wilson back in probably.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Hooker there. We actually are starting to see more game time of him as the weeks have progressed. And hey, I'm excited for Malik Hooker. Like, I was one of the guys I was like, someone's going to sign him at some point. I'm just glad that we pulled the trigger on him. I'm so glad that we did.
Do you know what?
He's a little more physical, Paul, than I expected him to be. I knew he was a ball hawk. I knew he knew where the football was, but he's been more physical than I expected. And I'm intrigued to watch him continue to develop. So they haven't had that kind of depth. Now, who knows how long it'll hold up? And they're excited about Mukuamu, who can't get on the field because of these other guys. They haven't had that kind of depth at the safety position in many, many, many years.
I know, it's crazy.
I know you just touched there, Brad. Sorry, I was going to say, Brad. Go on.
Sorry, mate. I was going to say, because that was one of the things that we were like, is this going to be the year we're going to draft a safety or what? It doesn't seem we need to really do that anymore because, like you said there, Brad, we've got so much depth now.
Yeah, Paul, here's the thing. This is an offshoot of the lecture I've been giving poor Lauren for the last hour. And now I'm going to have to watch don't look at the stat sheet, watch the games. Then remember this when it comes to draft time. I'm sure we'll talk again then. If not before. You draft the best football player. You don't say, I need a safety, so let's draft a safety. You draft the best football player. This is not a physical game. This is a violent game. And you're if you don't need the guy today, you're going to need him tomorrow. So you don't pass up superior players because you think you have. Now, there are some exceptions. If you've got a top 10 pick and you've got your franchise quarterback, okay, don't take a quarterback. But for the most part, don't pass up a good player and don't go into the draft saying, I got to have a safety. You take the best player. You can look for a safety. Hopefully, at some point, the best player is going to be a safety. But don't reach. Reaching will make your team bad. And so now they've got guys who have been players. They've had great fortune to have these guys who have been injured and are now healthy. I mean, KZ and Hooker are the two best examples, and Keanu Neal, who they turned into a linebacker, and look at him now.
Yeah, I mean, I think every off-season acquisition that we brought in have all made somewhat impact within the team right now. Urban, Kearse, KZ, and that's not even not to mention who we brought in within the draft for our rookies. I think it was it wasn't the game against the Giants, it was the game before. The majority of all the rookies had either a sack or a takeaway and stuff like that. It's like everyone is balling right now, which is fantastic to watch. And this is, I just can't wait to see how weeks go on, especially against this game against Belichick. It's going to be so interesting.
And that's why, that's exactly the point, because it's been so much fun to watch. And I'll leave you guys with this. I always think that a football season is like a lifetime. It starts with youthful exuberance and inexperience, and you don't know what's going on. And then you get smarter and more infirm as the time goes on. Now, if that's an apt analogy, then these teams right now are they're like 10 years old. They're like 10-year-old kids. Don't judge the finished product by it. Who wants to be judged as a finished product, even now, let alone as a 10-year-old kid? So this is a great, intriguing, fascinating matchup to watch against New England. We'll hope for the best result, and whatever happens, they'll learn from it and they'll build from it. And I think they're going to be in this race for the whole year. Let's enjoy every step of the journey.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
100%.
Especially now it's 17 games a season, not 16 now.
Right? All due patience. All due patience. Okay, boys, I got to go.
All right, Brad,
thank you, Brad, as always. We appreciate it, and stay safe.
You too. Cheers to Mike and his wife. Hope everything is just perfect. All right, boys.
Bye, Brad.
Be well.
Take care, man.
Thank you.
You too.
Wow, as always, it's all.
You took me off.
Paul's just dropped himself off there, but yeah.
No, I didn't.
What happened there?
As always, like we say, that was a little bit unexpected having Brad Sham on. That caught us kind of off guard. Literally, just as we was pressing to go live, Mike dropped us a message saying Brad was free and did we want him to come on? Yeah, so there's a nice little sideways surprise for everybody.
Nice surprise for everybody. But it definitely caught me off guard as well.
Before we jump into the last bit, everybody who's tuning in, thank you as always. Thank you for your comments and keeping us guys going and giving us something to talk about. But get us before the show ends, get us in your score predictions and we'll go through them.
Oh yes. And also we need to let them know once we've released a comment in regards to the higher or lower segment of the fantasy lounge as well. But yes, guys, get your scores in, what your predictions are, and comment with us if it's going to be higher or lower based on the players that we're going to mention in terms of fantasy points. All right. So, do we want to go ahead with the video?
Before that, we're going to quickly just pay the bills. So we'll go with so one of you guys want to take away the.
Yeah, guys, if you are planning on going to a Dallas Cowboys game this year, be sure to go with Cowboys Experience for the ultimate game day tailgate and meet and greet experiences. Meeting players such as Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, Michael Gallup, Micah Parsons, and many more, including Hall of Famer Drew Pearson and other players such as Ed Tootle Jones. I can name so many players. It's non-stop. And guys, me and Jamie, we've been with Cowboys Experience. We've used these guys for a good number of years. Every time we've went over to Dallas, they've treated us like absolute royalty. But guys, be sure to go onto their website. If you're planning on ordering, be sure to use the code UK Cowboys to receive free stuff. All right.
Yeah, don't be a clown. Use the code and get free stuff.
Yes.
Right, and then just a quick shout out as well to all the other Cowboys content providers. So from all the guys over at DallasCowboys.com, 1053 The Fan, Big Game James, Darryl Steele.
It's Marcus Cowboys Show, good friend Stashman, Jobo Sports Report, KT Funhouse, the Star Gang, which is Nex and Professor O and all those guys. Like, guys, be sure to go and check all these guys out because they create some amazing content as well. And be sure to go and check them out. But
I listen to about 8 hours of podcasts a day. So,
so we've got a good couple of scores, and also, Rika has a new show as well. Okay, we'll definitely get that added onto the list as well, my dear.
Drop us.
Drop us. Because what to do is drop us your logo, and we'll get it. We'll redesign that, and we'll get your logo on it, my dear. All right. Okay,
yeah,
so
so
we've
that
got a couple of
nicely dropped us in. I think done it to. I was going to say, do you want to? Should we slide into fantasy and then go and discuss?
Yeah, let's go for it.
The scores at the end. Yeah, so let's swiftly move into a.
Oh. Yeah, I think we both clicked it there.
Right, yeah, so this seems to be an extremely popular segment each week. So when we ended up deciding we were going to come on air, kind of had to skip through to see what's coming on fantasy. So let's see. So everybody who's tuning in, joining with us. So we've got a few here. There's got a few. The last one, I'll let you guys choose the last one. Because there's an either or here, so we can go with that. So the first one this week.
Oh, wait. Are we not actually doing the score predictions first, or we're going to do the fantasy?
No, I thought if we do the scores last, thinking just so we can end it on the scores.
Well, before we do that, guys, be sure get your scores in, and we'll bring them all up, and we will make our decision what we think our scores at the end as well. All right.
Yep.
Brilliant. Right. So. First up this week, Dak Prescott for fantasy football is what I'll say first, if anybody's tuning in for the first time, Mike likes to have and the guys like to have a little dabble on the fantasy football in terms of what if the players are going to get more or less than what they are predicted to get by the fantasy football pros. So what they do is if the guys think that the player in question is going to score more than predicted, they will give it I think it's it's a boy or boy for if they can score more.
Boy or boy for more.
Boy is higher, and oh boy is lower. But guys, be sure to. But if you want to say higher or lower, it's entirely up to yourselves. But we just go based on boy or oh boy for a higher or lower. But if you want to say higher or lower, leave them in the comments.
Joining this is what it's all about interacting with everybody and getting you all involved. End of the day, we do it for you guys. I mean, if it weren't for you guys and girls at home, then we'd just be three guys stood talking to each other like we were in a pub. So cracking on with it. The first player, Dak Prescott, predicted to get 20 fantasy points this week. Are we going higher or lower, guys?
Based on the Patriots defense, and we just don't know what. And I think Dak got roughly nearly 20 points against the Giants because of the interception, brought his points back down. So I'm going to say just boy oh boy, just a little bit higher. I'm going to say he's going to hit roughly about the 22-23 point mark.
Yeah, I'm gonna go boy oh boy as well. I think if he's throwing touchdowns like he did last week, then that should have brought him up. I'll go boy oh boy.
Yeah. What do you think, folks? Higher or lower for Prescott? Was it 21 points, Jamie?
20.
20 points this week. Predicted to get 20 is predicted to get this week.
Wow,
I'm in a keeper league that Brian set up, and I've got Dak as my starting quarterback, and my two backup quarterbacks are Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. And the last couple of weeks they've outscored Dak as well, and it's just because it's Dak and he balls out, and I'm like, I don't want to pull him out, but because I know as soon as I pull him out, he's gonna score more than these two.
Yeah.
So let's go, because we've talked about him a little bit, and Brad gave Paul a little bit of stick for the comments that he had about Mac Jones. So Mac Jones,
me,
15 fantasy points.
Oh, you're talking about Mike? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. He give. Yeah, Mike likes to refer to Mac Jones as a check down guy, five yard kind of guy, and Brad, right. Brad let it feeling up, but this week Mac Jones is predicted to get 15 fantasy points. Are we going higher or lower?
I think it might be a wee bit higher than that. Like I think 15 is quite low considering. Like if you're like when you really think about it, how NFL fantasy works, for him to get 15 points, you're talking about 140 odd yards, maybe 2 touchdowns, and that will take you up to about 20. Like, and not to mention, depending on how many rushing yards the quarterback will do himself, that will count up as more. So I'm going to say higher for Mac Jones. I think it's going to be roughly about 20, 22. I think it's going to be in the same region as that, if I'm being honest, between the 22, 23 points mark. And DJ Dog, yeah, he thinks it's higher. So who else do we have? Valenti saying lower. Who else do we have? Valenti's got a wee side bet on the go here. He thinks Diggs is going to pick him off. Of course. That'll definitely bring the points down for sure. But
I think he's
for 15 points.
I'm gonna go that it's oh boy, but I literally think, sorry, oh boy, but I think he'll be six. I only think he'll be about 16.25 or so. So I don't think he's going to be as high as 20 points, but I certainly hope he's not going to be as high as 20 points. I certainly think he's, we should be able to get the odd turnover against him.
Oh yeah. I think the turnovers are there for the taking, whether it's returns to sacks or fumble recoveries or picks or interceptions. So I think there is definitely like ways of where we can actually close down Mac Jones, but I do feel like 15 points seems a little bit too low for in terms of fantasy for him. Yeah. All right, Jamie, who have we got next?
Let's have a look. So, right, we'll go with 2 more, but I'll give you one, and then you guys can choose the last one. So,
okay.
Tony Pollard is
Tony
predicted
Pollard
to get 10 fantasy points this week. Are we going higher or lower?
I am going to say boy oh boy, because when you really think about it, how the shifts are being split up between him and Zeke, like all Pollard needs is 40 yards in the game and a touchdown, and that's him got 10 points.
Yeah.
So I am saying higher because I think Pollard will be the surprise element in this game. I think Zeke might be the one that's going to have the more quiet game again. Like I think it's just going to be a wee bit of a momentum shift. Pollard's probably going to have that more dynamic speed, like to do that. So I think all he needs is 40 yards and a touchdown, and that's him got 10 points in fantasy football. So I think it will be more than that. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go boy oh boy as well. I think potentially as we discussed, Belichick tries to take the best player out of the game. I think the best player is probably Zeke with the inside runs. So he'll clog up the middle of the field, and therefore that leaves Pollard open on the outside. And I think that's where he's going to get his points this week.
Yep. There we go. DJ Dog, boy oh boy, Valenti going oh boy. I think it's going to be lower.
Valenti's on a downer this week.
Yeah, Andy, what the fuck is going on with you, my man? Come on, man. Bring up the spirits. We want the boy oh boys. We want the boy oh boys here, man. That doesn't sound right, does it? Oh, right.
Right.
So we've got the option this time, Jamie.
Yeah. So I'll give you the first option, but then I won't give you the. Oh, there we go. Oh, right. Was added Tyron Smith. Fingers crossed. That's just a precaution. Thanks for that update there, Mark. We appreciate that.
Yeah, Mark.
So yeah. So the last one. I was going to go with Hunter Henry from the Patriots, but you can have Hunter Henry, or we can go for an outside kind of Cowboys player. Which one would you want to go? Which one are you going to go for?
I think I think actually doing the scoring for the wide receivers is going to be the hardest one, if I'm being perfectly honest. Just way how the Patriots defense can be lined up.
So do you want to go with the outside Cowboys player?
I'll let Lauren decide on this one. I'll let Lauren decide this one.
Let's go wide receiver.
Yeah.
I think Hunter Henry at the moment with, you know,
I tell you what, Lauren. I tell you what. Can we take a guess what Hunter Henry's score points is before we do?
Actually, so we'll go with have a guess.
So I think Hunter Henry is going to be 9 points.
Yeah, I'd say 8.
Paul,
what was it, Jamie?
He's predicted 10 this week. Is Hunter Henry?
Oh, you bastard!
So in game show fashion, you went for the, I won't say the booby prize because it's not even booby prize, but yeah, you went for the unknown. So this week, I'll give you the points that this player's expected to get, and then we'll see if you can get it from him, and then let us know if you're gonna go higher or lower. This Cowboys player is expected to get 6 points this week.
6?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
right.
Play along at home as well. Let's know who you think this is going to be, and then
it's definitely wide receiver.
He definitely, well, no, because that might give it away. I'll say it's a Cowboy.
Oh, Jimmy,
it's a Cowboys offensive player. No,
right,
it's a Cowboys offensive player.
We said wide receiver
before you guys give us your answers. Let's see what everybody else at home thinks, and let's see if we can get anybody who thinks it's right. So this Cowboys player is predicted to get 6 points this week. Who do you think he's going? Who do you think it is? Right. I was surprised, to be fair, that it was this low. I didn't think it was this low.
Oh, so you're saying like that? Okay, that may be a wee bit of a giveaway, but
I think it's a tight end.
I think it would have got more.
And I think it'll be, if you're saying low, then I think it'll be Schultz.
Yeah, and if it's a wide receiver, I'm gonna, and you're saying it's a surprise, I'm gonna say CD Lamb.
Have we got any guesses from guys and girls at home? I think
and Andy is saying tight end, but not being specific. I think that's the only comment we've got in regards to who we think this player could be for 6 fantasy points.
All three of you were wrong. Paul was Paul was the closest. You got the positioning right.
Right. So let me guess. Is it Cooper? Is it Cooper
Wilson?
Cedric Wilson. I was going to say Cedric Wilson, but see, because you said more, that threw me off, and I'm thinking, it must be a prominent name. So
this is what you got to do. You've got to put you off the scent, haven't you? You've got to.
Jamie, that's just not nice.
Yeah. He's still bring back Mike, honestly.
Don't do that to me, Lord.
Try to keep you guys in check is not an easy thing. I feel sorry for Mike.
I know. Trying to keep us Scotsmen in check is a hard task in itself.
That's what I mean. I'm outnumbered today. Do you know what I mean? It's do you know what I mean? 2 Scots and a Brit, and if not, 2 Welsh guys, and then do you know what I mean? Brian jumps on the side that's against me, so it's like I'm always outnumbered 2-1.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, Cedric Wilson's predicted.
Oh yeah. So what
do you reckon?
Let's bring up the score predictions, guys. So far, Joe has went 45-10 Cowboys. Valente going for 28-20. Yep. DJ Dog 27-21. Yeah, I think I'd say Valenti and Dog are the closest ones to that. Guys, if you're not, put your scores in, get them in quickly so we can have a wee quick look. Who do you want?
I'll give you two guys a minute or so, yeah. But I'm going to go.
I've got a rough idea of what means this. So on you go, Jamie.
Yeah, I'm going to go that in the game. I think Micah Parsons is going to get a strip sack, and I'm going to go for 34-17 to the Cowboys.
Ooh.
I think Dak blows them out this week. As good as that Patriots defense is. What are you guys thinking?
I'm actually thinking very similar to you. I was going to say 35-17, so I'll go with that. And yeah, I was going to say there's going to be 3 turnovers on defense.
I'm going to go based on what I was. I'm going to go based on what I was saying about fantasy, especially when it comes to Dak and Mac Jones. There is going to be turnovers. That's a God-given fact. I think it's going to be a score all in the 20s. So I'm going to say 24-20 Cowboys.
Do you know what's interesting is, like I say, over the last probably couple of years that we've been doing this, when we've been going for their predictions, we've been going that like for a lot of stuff on offense, and now we're starting to predict a little bit more for defense in terms of turnovers and strip sacks and interceptions. And
yeah, we get in there with our score 38-17. So this is actually I'm actually quite surprised. Like, we're actually not like given quite a lot of the comments are kind of saying we're giving the Patriots, we're pretty much going to give them an absolute spanking, and some of the comments are kind of getting like close to us. So it's quite varied. We're getting quite good varied results in terms of what the score predictions are. I would say mine's has actually been the closest one in terms of point difference. So, but hey, as long as we get the win, that's what matters.
No, it is. I think, yeah, and I think that wraps it up. So I think, yeah, massive thank you for jumping on and keeping us guys company, to Lorne and Paul for their insight as well. I say Cowboys Patriots Sunday at 9:25 UK time. But I'm gonna hand it over to you two guys to close it out.
So that is 1:25 p.m. Eastern, and whatever that is. I can't even work out time difference right now. But basically, Cowboys game 9:25 p.m. is it on Sky Sports?
No, not this week.
It's not on Sky Sports, so it'll be on NFL Game Pass, folks.
Yeah.
Yep. I think I think Tony Romo's doing the coverage. It's certainly at CBS this week. So
that makes a lot more sense. Okay.
Yep.
Well, all right, guys. So is that us finished then for this evening?
Yep, I think.
But yeah, so that's have a safe week, everybody. Yeah.
Did I see
safe week. Thank you.
Anyway,
thank you for keeping us free and Brad company. But for me, goodbye, and I'll let Lorne and Paul close it out.
All right,
have a good week, guys, and go Cowboys.
Have a good week. How about them Cowboys? And let's get that win and beat Belichick's 1987 to the Foxborough. Let's do it. Catch you later.